Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by my overpriced for the services he provides, Tucker Hazelman, here today to talk about
That's what everyone's always saying about me.
Nintendo Switch Online. That's the topic for the day. We're finally jumping back into this pool of fucking nonsense. A cesspool, I think, is probably an accurate way to describe this entire field of Nintendo debate. But before we share our thoughts on the current state of NSO, if you want to tell us what you think, be sure to join the Discord link as usual, top of the description way down there. Like the video, ring the bell, and subscribe to the channel because subscriptions kind of flatlining right now.
Kind of flatlining. Videos kind of flatlining too, so I don't blame them, but
Is it because we're not uploading videos? Maybe, but here's the point, and I heard this from another YouTuber. I'm just gonna rip it.
Okay, right, sure. Yeah.
You can unsubscribe if you want to, so you can change your mind. This is not binding, but you can subscribe right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just sit with that feeling.
Yeah, see how it sits with you. Yeah, of course.
Build up our spiritual chakras by giving us another number, bigger number, better person.
Yeah, that's what I always said. So my grandpappy always told me.
Tucker,
hey,
fuck it. I'm not in it for the numbers. I'm not in it for the fame. I'm in it to talk about F-Zero X, and that's exactly what we're going to do today.
Yep.
But Tucker, before we get into kind of the minutiae of what's coming to the service imminently, actually, I'm kind of curious, high level, where you stand on NSO and the expansion pass now 5 months removed from its release?
Yeah, five months removed, not only from its release, but from the approximate release of our first video covering the topic, which was, card in the corner, kind of controversial because we were pretty positive about it. I mean, I sort of presented not the devil's advocate side, because most people are on the side of, hey, this is overpriced. This is not up to par with what Xbox and PlayStation are doing. Nintendo needs to rethink this. Most people did that. And I was on that side as well. But as the service came out and we tried it and we realized, people are covering this incorrectly, factually wrong from quite a few different angles. It was kind of a mixed bag that we ended up slightly more positive on. And I've got to say that over the course of the last few months, very little has changed except for one big exception, being the Mario Kart 8 booster expansion pass. I don't know the exact terminology. But otherwise, it's about what I expected, frankly. And the addition of the booster pass is something I didn't expect. So I guess I'm like 0.5 points warmer on it. There are more games to play now. It does have more value because of the booster pass. It's some of the games have gotten fixed, the fog and things in Ocarina of Time. It has gotten better. That's all I have to say, really.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a little shrug of the shoulders is basically what NSO deserves right now, because here's the deal. I think that as a service, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I think releasing between 0 and 1 game a month is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
By any metric.
I say because it is cutting it.
Right, apparently so. But where I think it's more interesting is I think that if you are a player in the Nintendo Switch ecosystem, it's very easy to spend this money and just be done with it. Because as you're saying, the booster pass is a big deal. We got the Animal Crossing expansion in there. You're getting your cloud saves, you're getting all this stuff, and now you are getting N64 games, which I think are at a lot more value than the vast majority of NES or SNES games are going to add anymore. So I think that there is a bang for your buck, but it's more of like a clap, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like we're settling into a place where I'm incredibly frustrated with how Nintendo rolls with the content, which is as this sort of like slowly accumulating mass in my digital Nintendo library.
Yeah.
Well, then I don't really see myself wanting to get rid of it. I often think about canceling PS Plus, for instance, because I basically never used it.
Yeah, same here.
But Nintendo
I got it for Fall Guys. What was that? August of 2020, July of 2020?
A long time ago.
And I never canceled it. And I guess I'm glad I have it now, because if I want to play Elden Ring online, I'm pretty sure I need it. But you know.
But do you really?
I haven't yet. But hey,
right.
I'm fighting some motherfuckers in Elden Ring that I might need someone to drop in on. By the way.
Sure. But, as this thing that's just sitting here, as long as we keep in these sort of DLC expansions bundled into our subscription, well, then honestly, I don't really see a reason to not have this, especially, by the way, since the storefronts are starting to close down on Wii U and 3DS. This
alongside a pair of Joy-Con,
alongside a pair of Joy-Con is where is probably the new best way to play F-Zero X and Majora's Mask and everything. So I don't know. It's like that family member you see at the holidays and like, oh, well, they're back again.
Oh, joy.
But you still love them, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because the rollout of these games is both a very strange pro and con. I mean, I think it leans most heavily into the cons thing because we were very disappointed with the rollout of NES and SNES games, but we didn't know how good we had it. Let's be honest. I mean, getting two or three games a month, an interesting smattering of, hey, here's an iconic game, here's some weird ones. That was pretty interesting, all things considered. And now we've reached the point where those have stopped. Although we did get Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings, which was, way later than it makes any sense to have them on there, but it does add value to that collection. But now we're getting one game a month, which comes with the pro. No matter how big of a pro it is entirely subjective, but the pro of having these games reintroduced into conversation in a larger way than they have been in years, frankly. I mean, when Kirby 64 inevitably drops, that's gonna be the first time anyone's heard of that game in a decade. So it's definitely gonna be fun. And I've certainly enjoyed seeing people get excited for the release of Majora's Mask, for Paper Mario, for Banjo-Kazooie, these games that are very iconic. People enjoy. This is the most accessible way to play them. It's been fun to have them reintroduced into conversation. But it's also only one game a month. And if you're not interested in Banjo-Kazooie, if you're not interested in Paper Mario because it's a longer game, then you're out of it for a month. And you don't really have anything to go back to because the library is very small. It started very small and it's only barely grown since then.
Yeah, I think the one game a month is the thing that I'm really taking the greatest umbrage with, if you will, because here's the thing: a lot of these games are some of my favorite games of all time, Star Fox 64 and F-Zero and X and all this stuff. But I have them already, right? And I think that if I already have these games, at least give them to me in a sort of bulk manner. Because if I have a specific hankering to play Paper Mario, well then. I've got this hot rod right here. I've got F-Zero X on cartridge, right? But if you were to say, okay, here for the month of February, here's the 4 games you're getting. As you're saying, we get F-Zero, Paper Mario, and then we get Wet Tricks, and we get something else, right?
Sure, yeah.
If
I'd be fucking excited to try Wet Tricks, I guess.
If we're getting these sort of bundles, though, I think that incentivizes me more to return to the service, even if I have these games. You give me the one I've never heard of, or the one I haven't played, and then you give me the old favorites, and that's gonna make me want to engage with the service more. But instead, it's a sort of thing where like sometimes I put up NSO and I'm like, oh hey, Majora's Mask is here now. That's kind of neat. Yeah. But also I've had Majora's Mask for like ever, so I don't feel an imperative urge to boot it up. It's actually the booster course stuff that is really going to tantalize. Well, actually, first I have F-Zero X. I just really want to play that game again. And my N64 is at home. Of course, I'll be home in 2 days, but semantics. The point is, for the most part, it's these DLC drops that's making me want to turn on my Switch and engage with NSO content. But also, it's like I was going to buy that anyway. Yeah. So that's an interesting component of the conversation because yes, it's adding value because I don't have to spend that $25 for the booster course. Yeah. But is that because NSO is good or because it's just giving me something I was going to buy anyway,
Yeah, it is. It's peculiar for me because I come from it in a very different angle. And most people do let's be frank, most people don't have access to these games. How many copies did F-Zero X sell in physical copies? I don't know. And I don't think anyone knows. I mean, there's sure, yeah, and you've got 25% of them. So having it on there is a big deal for most people who are interested in game history. But if they're interested in game history, maybe they already have an N64. It's a weird wave that you have to ride. But for me, it is these drops of these games that I don't have access to any other way, and I'd rather get them given to me than have to buy them separately because that's the kind of person I am. I going on my Wii U and purchasing F-Zero X is totally possible, but I would rather wait to have Pokemon Snap given to me than go imminently purchase it. But that's what draws me to the service because I'm not someone who engages with DLC very much. And I know that is a very subjective thing. And of course, I will not deny that the value of this package is that they are adding DLC to it 100%. But I don't even know if I'm going to play these Mario Kart courses. And I know, of course, most people will be, but I'm already not interested in Mario Kart. The stages, I don't. They don't excite me. But I'm interested to see how Nintendo continues to build, or if there's a cap to this. That I think is kind of interesting to future project. Is will they continue adding all DLC to it? I don't know. If there's Pokemon DLC, does that not come with it because it's a Game Freak thing? Who knows? Like, are they going to stop at, hey, 5 DLC editions? That's totally enough. We don't need to add more. Buy the rest on your own. There's the precedent hasn't been clearly set yet. Is this just an early in the stage thing, or I don't know?
Yeah, that's the thing, because like these, and this kind of comes back to my question. These aren't actually NSO things. They're just Switch things being given to NSO members. Mm-hmm. Like I think about when the Pac-Man Battle Royale game or Mario or Tetris, whatever, got added to that service. Like that is an intrinsic NSO benefit.
Yeah.
Now it's sort of like NSO is becoming a grab bag of just like dump shit into it, and we don't know if it's going to continue to that effect. And in the interim, yeah, I mean the booster course pack and the Happy Home Designer together are worth twice as much, I think, as the price of the expansion. Mm-hmm. So it's like that is good value, but I'd be more interested, to your point, Tucker, about, the people who are going to play the DLC are going to play the DLC anyway, and the people who don't care are not going to care. I would like to see Nintendo pivot to actually providing stuff that's useful for NSO focused members.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And the Mario Kart stuff makes more sense because you play that online, whatever. But give us more actual tailored content. I think.
Like 25 Crystal Apples and Kirby Fighters 2.
They're gem apples, you fuck.
I'm surprised I even remember they were apples or crystal related in the first place.
I will say though, one of the other interesting things that basically showed up in the middle of the night and refuses to leave now are the new like icon profiles. Have you seen those?
Sure, yeah. The little pictures you can put at your profile,
yeah. Which is another weird element of the whole NSO expansion ordeal, right?
Oh, is it only part of the expansion?
No, I mean, that's as a poor choice of words. I mean, the general expansion of the NSO experience.
Okay, sure. Because do you need to have NSO to get them?
I believe so.
Or is it not just part of you creating a profile?
No, because you have to get them through that NSO circle on your home screen. Now I don't know if you can access that without Nintendo Switch Online.
No idea, because we've had it since day one. Yeah.
But like there seems to be a concerted effort beyond dropping random games at random intervals of time and dropping DLC to make the NSO experience a little bit more robust, but in a very cursory sense, because we got these profile pictures and there's a pretty significant update to the NSO app.
Yeah.
Not that I'm ever going to re-download that, so I don't really know or care. But it's Nintendo is taking like a baby, like the smallest possible baby steps towards improving the service in that holistic sense, which I guess is good.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this whole situation for me is where we started this conversation from, back when the service first dropped. This is N64 games being added. That's what the majority of the value is. Do you see value in that? Is there enough games? Are they made are they quote unquote remade or ported in a way that allows them to be the best version? That was the questions we started with. And since then, the N64 element of it has become just the baseline. I mean, we're going to get an N64 game a month. And that list of the games that are presumably going to come to the service was leaked, and it was a pretty solid library. But is that, do we finish seeing that at the end of 2023? And by that point, have they added another console? Do we ever get any other N64 games on top of that? We're talking about things like fucking Letrix, which neither you or I particularly care about, but it certainly would be interesting to see brought back. Do they even care to branch out into the weirder stuff for N64 because they've got this set library already? It's a lot of questions that I think continue to distance me from this being the great service that it could be if Nintendo put more effort into it. But interestingly enough, the service has more going for it now, but in retrospect, it almost has less going for it because people just seem to care less. Two sides of the same coin, but neither are good.
It's like having a bus pass. Like you just have a bus pass because you get value out of it. Mm-hmm. but like it's not exciting to have a bus pass.
Sure, no.
And I think that's sort of the way I'm starting to feel about it. Like I think now NSO is just a thing you should have.
Mm-hmm.
The cost relative to where the content is now, if you are a player who uses their Switch a lot, it is worth having this service.
Sure, yeah.
The rollout is so slow that the actual the distribution of content is the problem. I no longer think it's the actual content base, because as you're saying, the emulation is fixed on these N64 games. There's at least now a number of them to play. If you have Mario Kart and Animal Crossing, which is a lot of people who own Switches, you might as well just have this membership, because you're going to get more content in those games passively. And if Nintendo continues to just update games randomly with these late DLC pieces, well, then chances are you're going to have a membership that's going to gain even more value on the back of content you already own. It's just this snowballing thing. It's snowballing super slowly, but now I think that snowball has gotten to a point where it's big enough, even if it's kind of on a plateau for a moment, where like for the $50 a year, I do think that it is worth.
Watch your words here. Hold on.
It's worth owning if you are a Switch hardcore fan.
Sure.
Otherwise, I think it's still kind of take it or leave it. But considering the problems have been ironed out, considering the fact that like they're very basic, but to get one of those icons, or to get the silver coins to get the icons, you have to play Super Mario Brothers. So the idea that Nintendo is starting to experiment with an actual tangible, useful reward system, the fact that they are updating the app, the fact that they are at least giving you some games, fixing emulation, just buy it. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
That should be the marketing catchphrase for NSO.
It'll be very fascinating. I think we said we were going to do a check-in, I think a month after that the service came out, and thinking that maybe there would be some sort of substantial information. And
literally nothing.
Yeah, and so we didn't do that. And I think we kind of found a good middle ground of how long to take to check back in. So, another 6 months from now, end of the year, I think would be interesting to do another check-in, because this could be, frankly, it's not going to be, but it could be a turning point for NSO, because we've got a number of games coming out that will involve online to some capacity. This is the first time that a major first-party multiplayer game in terms of Splatoon 3 will be releasing alongside this NSO. Splatoon 2 launched before even the basic NSO was a thing. And also now they have the better infrastructure. So hopefully that game will run better online. How will that be integrated into NSO? If you have the expansion pass, will you get the DLC for that? Will you unlock any special perks? Like what will there be, daily activities? They could synchronize their new multiplayer games with this service in a way that does make it feel like, oh, this is where the actual value is. This is why you want to own this. They haven't announced that yet, but frankly, it's because we only have a smattering of information about each of their games this year. Oh, also, I totally forgot Mario Strikers and Switch Sports. Both of those online to a certain degree. That'll be interesting to see how that factors in as well.
Yeah, and I think this speaks to, I think, where I'm kind of crystallizing my thoughts on being, this is a service that's useful to have passively.
Yeah,
because if you're going to buy these big games, you're probably going to get benefit out of this. And I actually think that the Mario Kart DLC is maybe the most important thing that's ever going to come to this service, because there's 40 million people who own that game.
Yeah,
and it has gotten no new content in 5 years, as we have said ad nauseum, right? But now, if you love Mario Kart, you play your Switch online, or you want to, well, then you should just buy this expansion pass. It's half of that cost is going to go towards the DLC you're already going to buy, and then you just get way more than $25 of value otherwise. I don't like that we have to justify the service around, well, at a certain point, it's really not expensive enough to really matter. But I think in a realistic sense, that's kind of the fact of the matter.
In a really realistic sense, a larger scope than just Nintendo, that's how subscription services operate on the whole. That's why I still have PlayStation Plus. I don't actively I don't know if I ever download the games, frankly, or add them to my library, because most of the time I don't care. But even things like Xbox Game Pass, which is a great deal, I haven't used it since I got my Xbox a month after that, and I'm okay with that, because obviously that service is a great service. But Netflix, I have Criterion, Hulu, all these streaming services. People have these subscriptions and use them once a month, if that, unless they're watching something consistently. And you just leave it on the background and it gives you access to this. Regardless of how much you're spending on subscription services, you are saving money and having access to more content than if you were buying it piecemeal, which is of course what people want the option for. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be the option, but saying that this service is inherently that different from the value of any of the other ones is a little bit strange in my opinion, because you're just used to having these things anyway, even if you're not using them. And this does have value that you could get out of it. I mean, of course, it comes down to subjective things. I don't pay for Hulu because I don't watch things on Hulu. I don't watch the shows that they have, but it's a Nintendo version of subscription service, and it being part of your just background routine of gaming is totally fine in my opinion.
I think it's fine. I just don't think it's good enough.
Sure. No, I completely agree with that. Yeah.
I don't, even though I don't use PS Plus very often. Well, actually, that's a bad example. So I don't even know if PS Plus is really worth the money that they charge for, frankly, some of these months. But let's think about Game Pass for a second, which has way more value than its barrier to entry. So I don't think Game Pass should really be it's the golden standard, but it's like an untouchable golden standard. But I think of it this way: of Game Pass, I use regularly. And when I look at that, I say that justifies its value. I think that the Switch is, its online justifies the value only if you're already using it a lot, and only if you don't care about using it passively. And I just don't think that it's. Let's think about this. I want to watch the Halo show, believe it or not, but that's the only reason I want Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make Paramount Plus a good subscription service, but it means that once the Halo show is finished, I'll spend $9 for a month and watch the Halo show and be done.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be why you get a subscription. And you also shouldn't get a subscription just so it lingers in the background. That's kind of what I use HBO Max for or whatever, right? But if the crux of your online gaming subscription, the gate which keeps your legacy content, if that's really only useful as like a passive thing to have to play games that are disassociated from the service, well, then it's not really a great reflection of its value. But it also it is. I don't really care. I think the thing about NSO is it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
the people who are going to buy it are going to buy it, and the people who don't aren't going to buy it.
Yeah, that's why I came out of this out of the gates of this video with my arms swinging in terms of going up and down in the shrug motion, because no one really complains about NSO anymore. Frankly, I feel like it's become enough of a non-issue, and so we've adapted to it. That's like, it's not really worth the effort to complain. And I know that's pessimistic, but Nintendo's not going to change. And frankly, it could get better. Like, the glimmer of hope is that there are online multiplayer games. They are adding these small things. Who knows? But I'm not disappointed in it. I don't know if you are. It could be better, but I don't have the fucking mind share to give a shit about how totally serviceable NSO is.
Yeah, it's fine. I have it. I was fine with it in November. I'm fine with it now.
Well, check back in 6 months, everyone, when probably nothing else has changed.